Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for being here with me and joining in on the Knowledge Shared series that we have. I would call you the industry pros or essential workers or anything to let people know just how great you are at what you do. I'm going to let you start, though, and introduce yourself. And so I'm from Alabama. I'm ladies first. So Elena, go ahead.
I'm Elena Rodriguez. I'm from the Basque Country, North Spain. I work in Indar. Next week, I will celebrate that I am 23 years in the water industry because I started when I was still in the university. Also 20 years in Indar. So that's my whole life.
Awesome. And tell us one interesting thing either that people wouldn't know about you, which you've already done, or maybe a hobby or something that you want to share. I forgot to add that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love being by the ocean. I live in Zarauz, it's on the coast in the Basque Country. And here we only have like summer months, June, July, mid-August. So today is a sunny day. So right after this meeting and another meeting in the HI, I will run by the ocean.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'll choose Steve, WaterWise Pro listed there. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, hey everyone, Steve Hernandez. I've been in the water industry for 20 years as of last week. So like Elena, this has kind of been my whole life. Worked my way from a summer hire position to management, been in management for 12 years now. Started WaterWise Pro to make an impact on the industry, to train and coach younger operators or operators trying to advance in their career. So met Charlie through Instagram.
I love how that happens. I love it. And so, yeah, so I'll just call on people. Go ahead, Michael Lassas.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Lassas, President and CEO of Proco Products. We are an expansion joint and check valve company. And I've been in the industry for going on 26 years. And my happy is celebrating Charlie's anniversary every year.
That's because he was such a big part of it. He gave me that courage and said, go for it, Charlie. So
I gave you that push to go over that cliff.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it does feel like a cliff. All right, so Tim, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Right, I'm Tim Albers. Considering we're going to talk, so I've been in, well, the motor industry for almost 30 years. But with GE and US Motors, so that puts me in the pump business pretty much immediately. And I guess an interesting fact is before I was in the motor business, I was a US Navy officer and did that active and reserve for almost 14 years and got out as a Navy Lieutenant Commander. So that's
awesome. Thank you for your service. You too, Mike. I know you're there as well. Ernesto, go ahead.
It's Charlie. I'm Ernesto Primera. I live in Alabama as well, in Mobile. And I'm still working in the oil and gas industry. I have been almost 20 years in the oil and gas industry, and I right now are part of the Pascagoula refinery in Mississippi. I work like a machinery engineer with Chevron. And that's it.
Yeah, an interesting fact about him is he's in Alabama. I mean, what else do we need to say? Mr. Ndonga, go ahead and tell them who you are.
How's everyone? So my name is Gakuo Ndonga, and I'm an applications engineering expert with SKF. Some of you know SKF as a bearing manufacturer. So I've been with them for a little close to 6 years now, and been in the industry, which mostly focus on fluids and pumps in around 7 years so far. So I've met Charlie quite a bit. Do run across her in a lot of the industry shows like WevTech and Turbo and Pump Symposium. It's unfortunate we may not be able to do those, in person this year, but maybe we'll see each other on the web, right?
Yes, I'm glad you're here today for sure.
Thanks.
Okay, so we've got Kevin. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Simon. I'm with Watts Water, based out of Massachusetts. Watts Water is a leading manufacturer of valves and water system components, typically focused on premise plumbing. So I've technically only been in the industry for 2 years. Prior to that, I was in graduate school at MIT for 5.5, 6 years. There, my master's thesis and PhD thesis focused a lot on energy systems and pump design. My master's thesis was focused on low power centrifugal pumps, and my PhD was focused on progressive cavity pump design.
So thank you for sharing that, Kevin. Paul, since we're talking pumps, go ahead.
Oh yeah, my name is Paul Ruzicka. I've been working with the pump industry now for, well, I'm in my 45th year, probably 2 months into my 45th year. Started out with Gould's Pumps. We transitioned to ITT, and now we're in Xylem, and we make all sorts of industrial, commercial, and residential products. I've been fortunate to be able to cross over a whole lot of markets and had a lot of fun through the years. And one of my things that you're probably not going to know, I think most people probably know anyway. I'm a little bit of a motorhead. I like antique cars, snowmobiles, and motorcycles. So I like to go fast, and I like to fix old cars and restore old cars to be what we call in the industry lock washer restorations, which means just like the way they came out of the factory. So
I love it. Yeah, I knew that, but maybe not, you know, the world is going to know now. Maybe you get some more people to go on a ride with you. Okay, Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Patrick Hogg. I work at Nidec US Motors. I've been in the pumping world for about 13 years. I started with dishwasher pumps and motors, and now I work with HI going all the way up to the big 5,000 horsepower or so motors and pumps. So been in not as long as Paul has, but I work with Tim. Tim actually helped me get into HI. So I met a lot of you through HI or seen you there. So HI is good to me. Charlie's good to me for the pump industry,
Oh,
you know,
thanks.
and everybody. So it's nice. Interesting fact about me, couple. I used to be a farmer. I grew up as a farmer, farmed with my dad for 20 something years, and hunting, fishing, and golfing.
I like it. So I haven't forgot about you, Ron. I want to say one thing to Patrick. He is our young professional. He got an award for being one of the young engineers coming up, and I just think that that's so cool, and really we have to have people leading the way, and y'all are doing that, each and every one of you. So thank you. Go ahead, Ron.
Hi, Ron Frisard from the AW Chesterton Company. This is my 30th year. I'm heading into my 30th year at Chesterton, dealing all with pump packing, valve packing, and gasketing for those 30 years. I have also worked in shipbuilding before I got into Chesterton, so I have a little shipbuilding in me that, and we also, a fact that, you know, that you might not know is I've been on the Mass Maritime cruise, you know, that they do every year for the students at Mass Maritime. I've done some training on their ship before, and we went through the Panama Canal and some other areas, so it was really cool. That's as close as I got to being on the ocean like that, but once again in the Navy where they don't have those ballasts and you get to feel all the waves and stuff. But yeah, it's been worked in many industries, wastewater, refining, I've spent a lot of time in, but dealing with sealing devices. And Charlie, I think, man, I can't think, we have to go back at least 10, you know, since you started.
Yeah, so 16 years, it's how long I've been in the industry. So that blows my mind. But yeah, the FSA helped me kind of launch my business and have a purpose, right, of how to do personal development, and made me stand on the stage and that kind of stuff. So,
I'm the packing man. I'm the packing chairman at the FSA. I also spoke at HI this year at the meeting in Pittsburgh for the FSA regarding gaskets at one of those luncheon things. So a lot of involvement in the industry, and there you go.
So for the people who don't know, the Hydraulic Institute is HI, and that is the authority on pumps and pump systems that write standards and do a lot of other things. And Fluid Sealing Association writes standards for the fluid sealing industry, and also builds community and focuses on professional development for that community of competitors, really, which I think is really, really cool that we can all come together. So I kind of cut you off, Mr. Ndonga, if you will start with and kind of tell us how, you know, what's a challenge that you have as far as your job right now, and in pre-COVID and post-COVID? Is there any change there in your job?
Yeah, and definitely, Charlie. So before COVID, one of the things I struggled with was actually, this is funny, is making personal connections with your customers. I know it's been what people are used to doing, but I've always struggled because obviously it's just a result of being really busy, right? But unfortunately, I think when we're working like this in this new working way, but also as the industry is changing around technology, for example, I have some customers who still aren't very strong using digital tools, all right, and software. So a lot of times they don't really tell you that until you connect with them on a personal level. Mm-hmm. So I think I really would like to do that. And we're going to see some challenges too with this current coronavirus climate. And the new challenge I think I'm seeing is when we're all at home all the time, our office is at home, our home life is here, it's hard to draw the line between work and life balance. So that's something I'm finding challenging, and I'm incorporating some routines to kind of help me get away from the desk, just like literally leaving either the house or my desk at lunchtime, and making sure when it hits 5, maybe I plan something so I get out of the house. But for the most part, I think we're seeing some new challenges in the industry, regarding software and tools, but, connecting with some of my customers a little bit closer, I can help them get through those hurdles. But in terms of Corona, I think we're all trying to figure it out right now.
Yeah, and that's great advice too to anybody who is, I feel like sales is really, really difficult right now because we're used to connecting with people. And really all businesses are like that. You've got to connect with people to have work be done and understand what has to do. And I've heard kind of both sides. Some, feel like they can connect with people better because they're all on a screen together and it's hard to get people from all over the country together. So I've heard it both ways. Steve, tell us about you, who are kind of out in the field there. How you've got a challenging job all the time. Tell us about that. And then, has anything kind of been more challenging or changed since COVID?
It's actually forced us to communicate more precisely and effectively. We had the first couple weeks off. We were rotating shifts. So I'm in charge of our upkeep and maintenance of our distributions part of the city's infrastructure. And with that, we do all our own water main construction and stuff. And so it's been business as usual since the first week of April for us. To be honest, we're wearing the masks out in the field, but we have to do our job out there in the field, and we can't. Our crews can't really work from home. I can, but I just don't feel right working from home when I know they're out kind of fighting the good fight. So it was more of a struggle at the beginning, trying to figure out what does this mean for us, and emergency response, how are we going to deal with all the orders that the county was putting on here in Santa Cruz, so it's a lot of uncertainties and a lot of inconsistencies from restaurant to restaurant or city to city. So me personally, I'm just wanting some normalcy.
Yeah, it's interesting. You start talking about the mask and working in there, and I just think about people being out in the heat, summer around here, and when I put those on, it's really difficult to breathe. So I wonder if there's any of that protocol, that as far as safety goes. Have y'all heard anything about that? Anybody? Okay, that's just me. I'm curious.
Well, one thing, I have a friend that works as an electrician in a manufacturing plant, and struggle at first when they required the masks. They weren't the correct rating, so they weren't flame rated, right? So they had to get special mask in there for that kind of stuff. So there's other things, to your point, Charlie, that you got to think about with heat and where you're wearing these masks, about what's important to them.
Yeah. Anything else as far as your business, Patrick, where you've seen a difference in kind of what the challenge, or what is it, your normal life to today?
Yeah, so it's definitely a change, and I talking about a different interaction for sure. I'm an application engineer. I've worked in marketing, so that interaction is very important to me, not just externally with customers, but also with my team internally, right? It's nice to be able to go to somebody's desk and get things done much quicker, where now you have to rely on getting them on the phone, over email. It does I think somebody mentioned that it makes you communicate more precisely, which is awesome. And one good thing about this, I don't want to say it's a struggle, so I want to say it's a good thing that it's really pushed a lot of companies that maybe are holding on to the old ways. It's pushed them into a new generation, right? Where that's realized that says, hey, this whole application engineering group can do well working from home, working at their own hours, working a little bit differently. We're still hitting our goals and going where we need to go with this new technology. It helps them embrace that new technology a little bit. It was a forced hand, but it's to see that still moving.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot too. And I think flexibility is something we were trying to get to, especially with people with families and different stages of life, figuring out, you know, on that personal basis, and we'll get to this on the employee basis on figuring that out. But Elena, I want to go to you. You're in Spain, and you know, just how is it different there and your challenges there?
I think the main challenge is the same, is connection with your colleagues and your customers. And when you are dealing with different projects in other parts of the world, being in touch just using like Teams or Zoom, not going there and reviewing things in person. And one thing that I always say from this coronavirus scenario, I was really happy at the beginning, because the first month I was feeling like being back in the university when you are all the time at home preparing exams, and was just going for lunch to study, back for lunch to study. So because we were not allowed for going to the street in more than 4 weeks, so the beginning was really, okay, this is like back to the university. And after the first month I was feeling, oh, I need my colleagues back. So
yeah,
I was happy
that rest period of like everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I probably should have been resting a little more, taking some time to learn, or.
Yeah. I have used all this coronavirus break trying to review many papers, things that I was storing in my desk, like books, and I think I have found very positive things in this break in our lives. We are back to the office till next Wednesday, like in percentage. From next Thursday, we go all the people to the office back again, because we are quite well right now in Spain. We are Friday, tomorrow, we start the new normal, just wearing masks and controlling the number of people in closed spaces, but we are in the new normal right now.
Awesome. Ernesto, I'm interested to hear from you. I feel like your world is a lot different being inside a plant. What is that like, or have you heard what that's like?
Yeah, that's correct. You know that I work in very exciting place for the people that love pumping system, because we have more than 2,000 pumping systems in one place.
Right.
That's a Pascagoula refinery, yeah. But I have been almost 2 months or more than 2 months, I don't remember, at home, try to work remotely, and I feel that we work more than when we are at the refinery.
Yeah.
Even 2 weeks ago was my first factory acceptance test online. I never did that before. And the OEM tried to provide 4 cameras, one looking for the equipment, other for the screen to look the curve, and the other for the mechanical condition data like vibration. And I from my desk, several hours
oh my
looking
God.
pumps online. Yeah, it was the first time. Even Chevron signed an agreement with the Microsoft to provide the tool. The name is Dynamic 365. When the people can walk around the equipment and I can see the equipment in my monitor. And it's cool, but I feel that we work more remotely than the refinery.
I think that is cool that we, so to that point, you feel like we can do the work. It's scheduling that time out in your day for breaks, first of all, you know, actually putting on the calendar, like I'm unavailable to kind of stop. But then, you know, to your point, there are things we can do. The video of a problem, an analysis that can be done. Do you feel like, I know, you know, Steve mentioned this, there's some things that you can't do from home. Do you feel like there's some things in the plant that, you know, absolutely need somebody there?
Absolutely, yes. The answer is yes. Even sometimes I'm appreciating a lot of people that been there working around the equipment, and I normally call them to get some information from the field. That is very important. And that require more efforts to get information. We have wonderful platform to get digital information, but something we need from the field. And it's 100% remotely. I mean to say that the efficiency is affected. It's possible not too much, like 50%, but it's affected.
Okay. Mike, I know kind of where you are because you've been joining me on our video calls, meetups, but I want to hear from you too. These guys hadn't heard from you, and so how is it? You're in California, Stockton there. Tell me about your challenges before, and then maybe some that have arisen during COVID.
Well, before COVID, we were going full speed, and like Steve said earlier, beginning March when it first started to take effect, from a leadership standpoint and from a management standpoint is how can I keep the employees safe? That's the first thing, is keeping the employees safe, and yet keeping our business running, to 100%. So, we sat down here and we came up with a plan to divide our staff in half. So 50% we sent home 1 week, and then 50% they'd come back, the second week. We're just alternating weeks in order to maintain the 100% functionality, so that we could still manufacture, we could still ship, we could still produce. Because not only do we supply the water industry, we're in the power industry, we're in the industrial, anywhere where there's pipes or valves, our expansion joints are going and they're needed. So it's been tough. We've kept it going. I think the one thing that we learned is I think that a lot of us have learned, Patrick touched on it, is my sales guys now are doing more Zoom learning sessions. They're on with engineers, and they're finding it more successful. And they tell me, Mike, I can get 30 engineers in one meeting, where if I travel, I can't see 30 engineers in 1 week. And it's been great. Hearing that the engineers and the contractors and the mechanical guys are willing to take this time to further their education. I know that's one of the questions here is what we're learning. Mm-hmm. And the fantastic part is technology is so great. We've taken this break in our advertising budget to put out teaching videos. Mm-hmm. and learning videos, how to install an expansion joint. And I like turning to Steve and Waterwise and what you do online and educating, just day-to-day things that come up that people don't know about and that people can learn. So
let's go there, Mike. Great point. Great shift there. If anybody wants to add, please do. Steve, go ahead and tell us what you've seen as far as a shift in education and how people can better their skills.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you, Mike, for that. I appreciate that acknowledgement. No, it's forced us to use technology, right? And so I think, listening to Mike talking, it's a reminder that, if we're not on social media, if we're not on, on some kind of online platform, we're going to get passed up. And so, or we're just missing out on the opportunities to work with customers or to connect or to just educate, people with whatever skills or talents we're picking up and sharing those with others. And I think, so for me, starting WaterWise Pro 4 years ago was I wanted to sharpen my skills and I wanted to get comfortable in front of the camera so that I could potentially teach classes. And I was thinking maybe 2-3 years it would happen, and it happened within 2.5 months. I did my first class. So it's just one of those things where social media can be utilized in such a positive way and powerful way. And it's built a really cool business for myself through the social media and just
so the people that don't know, he has thousands of followers on Instagram, but he's actually trained over 3,000 operators. Have that right, Steve, on the number there. And I think about him as like the operator for the operators. And so he's training the people who are taking care of our water treatment systems. And so I think that if we're talking about essential workers, we definitely have to have water, and we need to know how we're going to train people. One thing that
hey Charlie,
go ahead, Ron.
No, that's been really interesting about what we were saying, like Michael was saying too, is that we've had this like captive audience because all of a sudden, so many of our customers were at home too. So for us, my role now is I'm a global training manager, but we had planned all these in-house trainings, and all of a sudden, like a lot of people, I mean, COVID took a left turn real fast. We have had over 21,000 people in our webinars since February. And that's not even that many webinars when you start adding them all up. About a third customers and the rest are Salesforce globally. And it's, you know, we have a whole section done in Spanish for Latin America. We have a whole section in our Asia area and our European area. It's so what, I don't know if a lot of other people are into the same thing, but like with tools, we started, you know, having to triple our webinar tools to be able to handle all this. And, you know, when you were saying like happy things, think about when COVID hit and luckily where technology was.
Yes.
I mean, if this was like 4 or 5 years ago with the internet speeds the way they were and the way the software is all clunky, and how I don't think Ernesto would have a lot harder doing stuff at the refinery when you could barely, you know, connect and your wireless was not so good. So, you know, there were small blessings and things in the way technology was and everyone's internet speeds to be able to do this, you know, has been a real benefit because we've been able to get out there and really get stuff. And, you know, as you said too, like refine your skills. Surely the stuff that WaterWise Pro's doing and everyone else, I mean, every day you can sharpen the saw a small amount. So if someone spends, you know, half an hour watching a small video or whatever, they're getting their skills. And I especially think with younger people, and I don't mean to sound ageist, I'm pretty old myself, but I think that this people are really starting to that, it's investing in yourself and trying to get more training and learning and getting to where you master something more and more. And with these resources that are out there, I think it's been tremendously beneficial because just as Mike was saying with all of his videos that they're creating, now someone at, you know, 5 in the morning can get up and watch and now know how to install an expansion joint better because they can see that video and all of that information is out there. So yeah, I think this is a thing that we'll think back a year from now after COVID's gone about, you know, all the good stuff that people were able to internalize and actually make these videos where people can learn on their own about stuff. So
yeah, I definitely see the blessings. I think that when we have time to think as well, we get creative and innovative. So there'll be a lot of things coming out of that. 2 things. One, Gakuo, you mentioned having to kind of educate people on how to use the tools. For example, how do you click around in Zoom, which is what we're on. One of the things I would just say to y'all to, you know, just ask, you know, if you're normal calling with someone through, you know, the phone, you know, ask them if they have an issue or have used it and be willing to share how to get on there, because once they're in there and you're teaching them, they're more apt to jump on and share the video. I always try to have my video on first because people are like, okay, we're showing videos today, you know, that kind of thing. But the other thing I wanted to touch with Kevin and ask him as a young professional too, what have you done or are you thinking about doing as far as learning the industry?
So my main focus is, so my role is a research and innovation role. And so a lot of my learning has been reading academic papers, digging things up and trying to collaborate with other people in similar roles and other business units within Watts. We've got 3 business unit, Fluid Solutions, which I'm a part of, which is all about valves, temperature, pressure, flow. But we've also got a heating and hot water solutions business unit and a water quality business unit. And I've gotten the chance, normally you don't interact with those people who are in different states, in some cases entirely different reporting structures. And normally when you've got the office, all the noise of the office, you don't connect with those people in other parts of the business. And for me, it's been really awesome because I've been able to connect very strongly with the technology leaders in other parts of our company and learn from them. And so
access. So the advantage is access to people in a way where we can share knowledge, which I really like because this is called knowledge shared. So y'all are sharing stuff for others. Okay, so one of the things that I asked you is what would surprise somebody to learn about your field. Paul, I haven't talked with you in a while. You know, do you want to jump in here and, you know, is there something interesting about solving water problems?
Oh, sure. I just feel like, okay, first off, I want to say that I'm in the office. I've been in the office since this whole thing started, and my engineering workstation doesn't have a video, so I feel like I'm a little left out here, okay? But that's okay.
We know you.
And, anyways, to kind of expand on that, everyone's been talking about the learning and everything. We've been fortunate with all the tools, right? I think, as everyone's indicated, the internet speeds, the tools, and the ability to communicate better. But one of the most interesting things about the field, I think, is how it's evolved, how it's been going on. You know, I find that we need to become, as people in the industry, to become the educators for the people that are buying our products and using our products. It seems like we have kind of like had a transition from a lot of the tribal knowledge being kind of lost, I think, right? And I think that that's one thing that's coming back, is we're trying to document all those knowledges. Tim's been working with committees where we're having startups and how to put in foundations. We're trying to put all that together out there within the HI. So I think the most interesting thing is trying to take the role from being the engineer, right? The guy that's sitting behind the desk and maybe a little too geeky for this, right? Going out there and trying to be the trainer, the teacher, and to pass that information off. So I think that's pretty kind of fun, kind of exciting, very interesting. And like I said, we're very fortunate to be in a time where we could do this.
Yeah, I like that. I like what we've been trying to do. You know, we talked about, you know, the Empowering Brands or Empowering Pumps audience and development strategy was to capture all that knowledge, right, in a digital form to where we could share it. And because people are getting more comfortable getting on these type of programs and recording, and I think that we will have a better ability to kind of, you know, have it searchable and where people can really find the knowledge, like Kevin alluded to me. You know, he's been searching the internet to find these details. So hopefully we'll be able to get that really organized for the user to be able to learn. Okay, so ask y'all, you know, is there anybody else who wants to share something that, you know, people would find interesting about the field? Y'all just kind of wave and I'll call on you.
I think it's cool because whenever I got into the motor industry, you think you're not sure what you're getting into, especially, I think that happens with a lot of engineers coming out of university, coming out of college, is you're like, I have this big SpaceX dream coming out of college and I land at a motor manufacturer designing rotors or something, you know, and you're like, oh. But once you start getting into the industry, you realize every one of us on this call is an essential worker, right? So it's one of those things where you realize the importance of the job that you're doing and how it can affect the technology later. So we talk about, you know, in HI, we're writing a standard, or not a standard, but a guideline on IoT, right? Internet of Things, the industrial Internet of Things. So we're tied into this directly, even though we're in this industry. And this is one of the big things at HI that I'm trying to push. And, you know, I was the young engineer, and I want to try to push it. Paul mentioned it. How do we get the knowledge from people like Paul and Tim down to the young engineers, right? So I'm really pushing that out there. And that's one of those things, is to get that nice understanding of this market and what importance and how the technology is increasing. So to make it look, you know, sexy type of thing, you know, so that people want to get into it.
Yeah, I love that. It really is about telling people, reminding them, right? We take all of our things for granted. I mean, I know COVID has helped with us kind of put some priorities and perspective in all of our lives, but when we think about what we do every day, it is, in the pump and equipment industry as a whole, it is what keeps our lives running and moving forward. And everything from, you know, water to chocolate, you know, that's what we're going for. Tim, did you have anything that you wanted to add there?
You basically just stole it, because I was basically going to say, when you start to have the conversation, whether it's about motors or it's about pumps, and you start to talk about the pervasiveness of where it is, and you start to say, okay, you know, you got that glass of water this morning, you flushed your toilet, oh, you had a beer, well, you had a soda, or you had you had the chocolate, you know, whatever those things are. Oh, you went to an amusement park, or, you know, et cetera, and you just start having these conversations. Or if they live in a building and they live in a city, and you start talking about, you know, the larger commercial buildings and how those operate, and you know, they come to realize it's like, oh yeah, that doesn't just happen by accident, and there are these, you know, pump motor systems all over the place that actually improve their lives. And so many people have no idea, you know, what all goes into that. I think they think, well, the water flows down the river and somehow it ends up in my tap. So, you know, and so when you talk about what's kind of fun to talk about the industry, you know, it's, Patrick knows this about me, probably Paul, probably a number of you, but you know, what starts as an elevator speech could turn into a, you know, a very long toast story about something. But it's just because you want to start talking about it. You want to tell people about, you know, what it really takes and what the interesting parts are.
Yeah, we are passionate about this, and this group right here, which is why somebody nominated you, or I nominated you, you know, depending on how we met. But, you know, it is so important, vital to life. You've heard me say that over and over. So, you know, that I'd love to think about it with what's under the ground and what's behind the walls. And I think I stole that from Renee from Johnson Controls. But I think about under the ground and what I see, thinking about you, Steve, and the pipes that are under the road. And I don't know what they're doing on the side of the road right now. Like, what are they repairing? What are they doing? I just know a little bit. I know that's a pipe and that's a valve, but, you know, what is that process that you're doing right there?
Just basically taking that, you know, our product is water, right? And so we have our production and treatment, water quality side of things. And so they're producing the product, making it safe. And our job is to deliver it. So I always tell our guys, we're a customer service-based company. We just so happen to deliver water. And so the way we deliver it is through our pipes. I would like to take a minute and go back to the conversation you guys were just saying. I think that it's really important to understand that this generation of professionals, they want to learn so badly. And when I started in the industry 20 years ago, you weren't paid to think, you were paid to work. And that was told to us, you know, and they you know, the people that were in charge, they never wanted to share information. I don't know if it was an insecurity thing or what, but they didn't want to coach you up. They didn't want to teach you anything. And we just had to learn the hard way, you know, just through our own ambitions and goals. And so I think this generation is very, very, because technology is there and information's so readily available to us. And so we need to really take advantage of them wanting to learn and all that great conduits that we have to get that information to them as, you know, service providers. So.
That's so great. There's so many things I want to pull apart and go dive into from that, right? So what I'll start with, I just love that you delivered the service of water, the product of water, and that that's not like you may need it, like clothes or chocolate. It's like, it's actually what keeps you alive as a human. And so it's a really, really great way to think about this. And I'd say that water's in everything, every industry, everything. So I'm going to touch one more time with Ernesto on this because I see that refinery. You know, I've actually driven through there and you know, across the bridge, and there it is. And like, what are they creating in there? So the energy side of things, you know, do you have that same passion for energy as you do for water? Like, yes,
that's very different kind of industry, but both are, you know, very important for the humanity. In case of that refinery, for example, this is in Mississippi because it's a strategy based in the hurricane season with the hurricane impact, Louisiana or Texas. Yeah, we have the responsibility to provide fuel for the whole Gulf Coast, even Florida as well. This is the very important, it's a strategy asset to provide that kind of source for everything that's moving in our road right now.
Yeah, and you think about your time right now. It's about to get busy, where we're going into hurricane season, where we're trying to make sure everything is stable. There's also the backup side of things, right? You can't go down, you have to work. And so another thing we don't think about, same for housing and power, right? It's, you know, these are the things that we don't think about, but it's our job, because we're in here and we see it, and my job specifically as a media company to push that information out. But my funny story is driving by this water treatment plant for, you know, 20 plus years and never seeing it until today I see it every time. I see it before it's even there. You know, I'm like, it's coming. I'm about to get my joy for the day. So I just want to leave us. We're about to run out of time here, but I wanted to just ask you all to, you know, share a tip of advice, right, for somebody coming into this industry, somebody who wants to grow in this industry. And, you know, what would you tell them to kind of help them either get started or to advance while they're here? I'm going to start with Kevin, since he's a newbie in here. What would you say to somebody coming here?
Sure. I'd say the future's already here in this industry. It's just very, very unevenly distributed. If you talk about what you can do with technology these days, whether it's design tools, manufacturing, sensors, electronics, and where the industry is now, there is so much room to draw from other places and other sources of knowledge in order to bring that in and elevate what you're doing. And I don't say this to contrast all of the things that we can learn from things like Tim and Paul, because that stuff's also absolutely essential. But just, I think we need people should be pretty fearless about looking out and figuring out what they can do with technology and a new technology and bring that in to this industry.
It's such a great point, because we need people outside of our industry to come in and help us innovate and then take care of, you know, that next step for us. We're all doing that now with you know, just the Zoom that we're using. Mike, you want to go next?
No, absolutely. And you know, I go back, and it's just what everybody says. So, you know, we have old school, we have new school. And, you know, the new school guys listen to the old school guys. Old school guys listen to the new school guys. We can all learn from each other. And if you're coming in, you know, a lot of us have been in here 20 plus years, and I didn't know anything coming in. And the thing is listen and learn, and you're going to learn a lot from just opening your eyes, opening your ears. The coolest thing that I can do is when I'm out doing sales calls, like let's say water treatment plant, and walking through that plant, I like to take our distributor's hand and like, there's money, there's money, there's work. You know, you have all this at your capabilities. Learn about it. Just don't focus on selling the bearings and the seals. You can sell the hose, you can sell the fittings, you can sell the couplings, the flanges. It's all yours. Learn what the systems do. And that's why I like Steve so much. Is he shows, you know, what things can happen and learn.
I just want to say that I connected y'all, so I mean, I need a present or something for that.
Yeah, you did.
Paul, I'm going to go to you next. Bye.
I kind of got to pair it a little bit, you know, the old school, the new school. But more importantly, I think, is when you talk to people, you talk to everybody in every functional area, because everybody has a different angle, right? Everybody has a different approach. And the more rounded you are in terms of what goes on in other departments, like, for instance, your finance, your engineering, your marketing, your sales, that's where it all blends together. And I'll tell you what, the industry is a lot more complicated and a lot more interesting, and I'm going to be real honest here, than I first thought when I started. I didn't think it would be that much to it, or that it would be so fascinating for me. And I think you come in with an open mind and you engage, like I say, with all these other functional areas, your customers, and even the people in the plants and stuff. If you're fortunate enough to go out to a customer visit, you'd be amazed at how much you can learn, how much you can absorb, and actually how much fun you can actually have in the industry. That's the way I leave it, you know?
Yeah, that's great. Ron, go ahead. See you nodding. You're on mute still.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I totally agree with what we're talking here. It's a very good point, and especially where with that sharing of young engineers versus older engineers, and how before, I think if you say the old school time, sometimes you felt like there was these constraints. And I liked what Kevin said is today there is so many things that are easy to do. Once again, getting back to videos or being able to do trainings with these tools that are, you know, easily accessible and able to grab, especially electronics today, and what can be done quickly and fast to get data and prove points. It's amazing where we are today, and we've had all that ability to do that. So it's been very
awesome. Good. Gakuo, do you have some advice to share?
Yeah, I work with a lot of younger engineers who are just coming out of university, and sometimes it's funny. They always want to know, how do we solve this problem? How do we tackle this application? And they kind of still have that very structured university mentality. And sometimes I have to tell them, there's not just one way, right? There's not just one lubricant that will work in a bearing application. You can use multiple ones, and there's different ways to tackle a problem. So they're kind of adjusting to that. But also with COVID, I think it's even more adjustment as to how we even do business. How do we see customers? So my advice to them has been just be flexible. You know, we're in a transition, slight revolution, right? So you're going to have to be flexible because companies are being flexible. The industry is being very flexible. And it's an exciting time maybe to see some of that change, right? You know, they're coming out of university with a lot of hopes, but they're influencing the industry they work in. So that's kind of been my advice for the younger workforce.
Awesome. Tim, go ahead.
Well, I've given this advice a number of times, and that is find a way to get involved beyond your regular job. So that means, to Paul's point, you know, join a mentoring program and spend some time with another department, or find out what the industry standards or organizations are and try to attend them. Try to, you know, do something beyond your regular job that's not in the vein of your job, to go learn something more, because that is where you'll find the fun. That's where you'll learn. And then also within your company, people will look and say, oh, look what they're doing. They're actually doing something beyond just what they were asked to do, so they can go learn and find out more about things. So I've given that advice a number of times, and I think it's very consistent to a number of other things, and it really is a way to learn and grow.
Yeah, I agree with that, and just being able to, you know, take that challenge on. When it lines up with your work, it's a lot easier to do. We're all looking to add value to our communities and our, you know, homes. But when you can do that in the workplace, which we spend a lot of our time, right, doing, when that lines up, we can be more effective for sure.
I mean, and it can be anything, Charlie. I mean, it could be even writing an article that's not part of your job, but you can do it, or even volunteering to do a community program that's work-based. You know, like a rebuilding program or something like that. It can be anything, but it's just get engaged in the workplace in some way beyond your regular job.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to have Ernesto, then Steve, then Elena. Since you got to go first, we'll even it out there.
Yes, go ahead, Elena.
I totally agree with Tim. When we have like young engineers, and I always suggest trying to learn new things, try to be involved in the projects. Maybe if it's not part of your job, try to identify the global idea of the project in order to identify how you are going to grow in the company, because maybe you start in engineering and you prefer going to sales or maybe other department, to have a open idea about what do you want in the company. Also to suggest moving to other departments, of changing tasks or sharing things with your colleagues.
Yeah, that's great advice. Ernesto?
Yes, I love what Elena and Tim said, but I would like to complement to said. for the younger guys or the people that are starting their career in the industry is two ways. Spend your time or invest your time. If you invest your time, you will recover that investment in the future. Invest your time. I'm 43 years old and I invest my time too every day. Even right now, it's a huge opportunities online to receive free training, webinars. A lot of people working on for the customer or for the people that want to study, like to increase their knowledge, their skills. Invest your time. That's my recommendation.
Awesome. All right, Steve, we're going to close that advice. What do you have there?
So I would just like to, say thank you for this opportunity, and then also just say for anyone coming into the industry, whether you came from another trade or you're coming straight out of high school, college, continue to dream. When we're young, we have these big aspirations, but then we get into these blue collar trades, or maybe you're on the front line and you kind of forgot to dream about, what your potential could be. I'd just say, think of all the different possibilities that you think you could apply your talents or gain skills, and understand that it's a marathon. If you're in this industry, it's never going to go away. and just continue to invest in yourself, build value within yourself, which ultimately builds value within your company and your career and your family. And it's just it's a domino effect. So continue to look to the future and invest in yourself.
I love it. And I'll give a little advice for me. I feel like you need to know that you're not in one box, one career, one thing that you're good at. You can learn things and adapt and change and grow in anything, any project that, comes into your mind. If you imagine it, you can do it. If you, get the skills and the knowledge that you have. So I want to do something really quick. I always make people do this. And so I'm going to take your picture. So if you want to smile or wave or be happy. So
I'm gonna go shave. I'll be right back.
You're welcome. You did it. I got it all set up, ready to go. Okay, one more time just to make sure we're not, okay. All right, thanks y'all. Y'all are awesome. I can't think of a better group of people that I get to spend my week with this week, talking about essential work and people that have challenged me and inspired me in my career. Y'all are it, and just thank you for being here this week.
Thank you, Charlie, for bringing the
Thanks, Charlie.
Charlie. Nice meeting everyone.
All right, be safe, everyone.
Here.
Safe.
Have a wonderful day.